What up? What up? Okay, the second one. I do want to comment. Hopefully, I can get this one done in a screencast and a half. Um, let's go back to the very end of this one on interest groups. Again, iron triangles. It's a relationship between a congressional committee, a interest group, and a bureaucratic agency, all with the same focus. I use agriculture. I could use a variety of major policy issues. So, what makes an interest group strong? Well, size. We talked about the ARP. More members you have, the more money you have to spend, and certainly the more voters you have in your particular group. Spread, how vast they are in the United States. So you can go to virtually any county, and they probably, or certainly any state, have a membership for the National Rifle Association. So they're spread across the country, and that gives them great strength. Cohesiveness, how much they are together. The NRA is extremely cohesive. I mean, they're all on the same page. Leadership, certainly if you have someone at the top who's well known, that's going to help you. And resources, money. Chamber of Commerce represents businesses. Businesses have a lot of money, so they're going to be able to have a lot of influence. The AMA, the American Medical Association, has expertise. So we talked about how interest groups provide a lot of the technical details to pieces of legislation. So you can guarantee when they are crafting the Obamacare bill or the Affordable Care Act that the American Medical Association, doctors, would have a lot of say in what was in that particular piece of legislation. Again, the free rider problem simply means that everyone benefits well, not everybody. If you look at the ARP, old people, every old person benefits when they get things done, when they get things accomplished, whether or not an old person is paying into the particular group. And if you look up here, PACs, I say, are saved for later. I said we would be discussing in greater detail, so let's do that now. Political action committees are a little bit different than interest groups. They don't lobby Congress. Political action committees are going to be giving money directly to candidates, and I emphasize the word directly. And these really start to come into prominence in the late 70s with the passing of a law called FECA, the Federal Elections and Campaign Act, which we'll go over a little later because it doesn't seem to be on here. I think it was on a previous set of notes. Oh no, here it is, FECA. FECA was a way for Congress to kind of control what money was going to candidates. So it said, A, that candidates, if you give or accept, more than $250 from an individual, they must record who that individual is, who that individual works for, and how much money they gave. Where in the past, you had no idea where money was coming from for candidates. It also put limits. The limits to the amount of money an individual could give to a candidate. Because of this, individuals wanted other avenues in which to funnel their money to candidates. And that's where we have this explosion of political action committees. So if I'm limited as an individual to $2,400 that I can give to a candidate, and I may be very rich, I want to give more money to that candidate. So it's kind of circumventing the formal direct process of giving money to candidates. So you give money to the PAC, and then the PAC gives money to candidates. So it's basically a way of getting around this piece of legislation. So you have this explosive growth of political action committees after the 70s. And if you look at this chart, Open Secrets is a nonprofit organization, nonpartisan, meaning not advocating for one party or another, but they basically keep track of all of the PACs and where the money is going to. So if you see, these are the top PACs currently for the 15-16 cycle, and you'll see a variety. AT&T, they have their own political action committee. Lockheed Martin and Boeing are two that I want to talk about. Lockheed Martin and Boeing are both aircraft manufacturers, and they have a vested interest in getting government contracts, specifically through the Department of Defense. So they are more than willing to give up a little under $1 million if they're going to get a $50 million contract from the Department of Defense. So if we look at Lockheed Martin, a little bit slow, it shows you how much money they've spent in each election cycle. And it can give you very detailed results. So the party split. What's interesting about the party split is it shows you which party gets more of the money in each election cycle. And what's not surprising is when the Democrats took over Congress after the 2006 election, guess what happened in 2008 when they controlled Congress? They got more money. In 2010, when they controlled Congress, they got more money. What happened after the Republicans gained control over Congress again after the 2010 election? Republicans get more money. So what you'll see is most of these political action committees are related to businesses, and for the vast majority, they do not care about D or R, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. They care about who is in control or has power over Congress. So it changes with cycle. Home Depot even is on here. And we can look at past years, past election cycles, and see, obviously, the 15-16 election cycle is still going on, so those numbers will increase. But you'll see that there's a lot of money going to candidates. Blue Cross Blue Shield. Oh, goodness, that's a mess. We're not looking at them. National Beer Wholesalers Association. So there's some pieces of policy and legislation that they care about. So they have to try to influence members of Congress by giving them money. And again, you'll see that in the years in which Republicans control Congress, they get a heck of a lot more money. The Democrats, when they controlled Congress, got marginally more money. And, you know, if we wanted to, we could break it down to candidates. You know, candidates, how much money they give. PACs are limited to $5,000, where I believe individuals can give $2,500 now. PACs can give $5,000 per election cycle. And they can't say, here's $5,000 and you need to vote this way for a bill. But certainly if I'm a member of Congress and I'm running for office and I know I got $5,000 from a political action committee, I'm going to have, some kind of dialogue when they come knocking on my office or sending me an email after I'm reelected to Congress. So there's a tremendous amount of money that's flowing via political action committees. But what changes the game completely and totally, and I want to emphasize, changes the game, is what we call super PACs. This was established after a Supreme Court decision, Speech Now versus Federal Elections Committee, or Citizens United. I emphasize again, Citizens United is what the court case is really referred to from a historical standpoint. And what the decision said was, businesses, corporations could spend unlimited amount of money opposing or supporting a candidate as long as they weren't coordinating with the campaign, as long as they weren't talking to a campaign, as long as they were separate from the campaign. So where a PAC is coordinating by giving them directly money, super PACs do not give money to the campaigns. They run independent, meaning they run their own ads, either supporting or opposing a candidate, and therefore can spend unlimited amounts of money. And what you'll see is the amount of money is astronomical. In this cycle alone, we have a super PAC called Right to Rise that has already raised $103 million for Jeb Bush. $103 million. So if we went back to the regular PACs, they're only spending like $1 million. These super PACs get unlimited amounts of money. If I'm rich and I want to donate $20 million to a candidate, I can. It has changed the game completely in elections. So I would reason that there's no point in giving money to a PAC now, because I can give money to a super PAC, and as long as they're separate from the campaign, they can support or trash my opponent all they want. So individuals with money now have tremendous amount that they can give to a super PAC. Peace.